Hello and welcome to the Divorced Dadvocates, where we help dads create a healthy and less traumatic divorce. My name is Jude and I am your host. Today we've got a part two. I made a promise to you that we were going to delve a little more into this topic, and I've got a phenomenal guest today to do that. And that topic is co-parenting versus parallel parenting. But before we get into that and I introduce our amazing guest today, let me just remind you that the divorce quiz is still up at the website at thedivorcedadvocate.com. Click on the divorce quiz tab, and it's a phenomenal opportunity to gauge where you're at in your divorce compared to others who have gone through it. It's going to take about 10 minutes, and you'll have an opportunity to review those results for me for free. So check it out, or you can go directly to the quiz at thedivorcequiz.com. All right, my guest today's therapy, parent training, and speaking practice is born out of a passion for making the most of this thing called life. She sees the world through the lens of relationships, and her work is all about how we relate to ourselves, to people in our lives, and to the divine. She especially loves helping parents be their best selves because that is good for their kids and is the foundation of close, connected families. Please welcome parentologist Kerry Stutzman. Hi, Kerry.
Hello, nice to be here.
It's great to have you here. And I just want to give everybody a little bit of a background. I'm a huge fan of yours. I took one of your Love and Logic parenting classes many, many years ago. And many years ago is, I'm trying to calculate this real quick. I'm not the fast calculator in my head. It was 12 years ago.
Really?
It was the first
time
I took, and I've taken a subsequent class. It's phenomenal. We've talked on this show many, many times about Love and Logic. I was telling you what a blessing it was in my life, because 12 years ago would have been when my oldest was 4. And I now have 3 daughters, 16, 14, and 12. And so it was a blessing, and your work around that, as well as I know that you're going to talk a little bit about your other work. But so I'm a huge fan. I'm really excited to talk about this. So before we get into the co-parenting and parallel parenting, though, tell us about a little bit of background about yourself, but also I'm sure everybody heard me call you a parentologist, which I love that name. Tell us why you are a parentologist as well.
That's a good question. Well, my official title is licensed marriage and family therapist.
But that's so boring. Parentologist.
I know,
is so much
but I agree.
And
the truth is, I'm fascinated with the experience of being a parent. So that's the focus of my practice. So professionally, I'm focused and obsessed on the experience of being a parent and supporting parents. And then in my own life, I have poured myself into parenting, and I have 3 boys of my own. And then I got divorced and remarried and brought in 2 more boys and a girl, for a blended family with 6 kids, which with 5 boys. And there was a period where all 5 boys were technically teenagers. And so parenting has been of interest to me through being a stay-at-home parent, happily married, stay at home, unhappily married, stay at home, divorced, single, working, going back to school, and then happily remarried and blending a family with 5 males, 3 of whom were adolescents. So that's why I call myself a parentologist. And I teach parenting classes, and I give presentations about parenting, and I have a blog and write emails about parenting, and I do social media posts about, guess what? Parenting. Right. So, and I think parenting is like this invitation for us to grow ourselves up. And so parenting is so much more than just parenting skills about what to say to the kids. It's like, how do we actually show up as grownups? It's like never-ending pop quizzes about, am I going to show up as a grown-up? How am I going to respond to the situation? Or am I going to react like I'm a teenager or a kid myself?
Yes, that's absolutely true. And hopefully my daughters aren't listening, but I can confirm that they teach me way more than anything has ever taught me in my entire life, every single day, about relationships, about like everything. And so,
Right.
yeah, that's that's so spot on. So let's talk a little bit about co-parenting versus parallel parenting. And I think we can both agree that all the experts, all family therapists agree that co-parenting effectively together with your ex is like the most healthy thing you can do, correct?
100%.
Okay. But sometimes that can be a challenge for many number of reasons. And so there's this thing that's called parallel parenting. And so that can also be effective, but just in a little bit of a different way. And so kind of how I want to approach this is that my primer was I kind of defined some of these in my terms, but again, like I'm not as smart as you. I don't have all this experience. You've like most of the time I'm talking about how I have 3 daughters and I've gone all through. You've trumped like all of those in the first 3 minutes of our conversation, and you're a licensed, what is it, licensed marriage and family therapist, like all of that. So you've got all this. So I want you then to give like the real official definition and understanding of co-parenting, and then also parallel parenting. Then we'll dive a little bit deeper. So let's start with co-parenting. Like, what is that?
Well, so co-parenting is where parents share the responsibility, and there's a spectrum of co-parenting, right? So there can be warm, amicable, flexible, fluid co-parenting where maybe the parents are together. Sometimes they're fluid as far as like, oh, can I swap weekends with you? Can I drop them off a little later?
Yeah.
Where they share a schedule, like, drop off and pick up from the same games, and kids get to their birthday parties and all that. That's the best. Next on the spectrum is more like stiff, rigid, less friendly co-parenting, but where there's still some like parents are on the same page. They agree their kids are going to be on this soccer team or in this choir, or they get to go to that kid's birthday party, and they can figure out who's going to get the birthday gift or how those swaps are going to go. It may be tense, but it can still be done. There may be support for that through, having a PCDM. And in an ideal world, they can protect the kids from any of the discomfort, and the kids don't really see that there's conflict, and their world tends to work a little more unified.
Yeah. So is it safe to say, I'm sorry to interrupt, is it safe to say the primary mindset with parents who are co-parenting put the children at the forefront, like their best interests at the forefront?
For sure. Yes. And the kids' worlds are a little more unified between the different parents' houses. Okay. Like, so they may live in 2 different houses, but they might still go to the same soccer practice or chess club or whatever, because the parents are both participants in the same activities.
Got it. And so would kind of values and beliefs around the environments that you're creating for your children be shared?
I wouldn't say that that's a given with co-parenting. I mean, I certainly have done a fair amount of co-parent coaching where the parents have really different values. And that's one of the reasons that they come for coaching, is because they disagree about discipline and values. But at the end of the day, they still co-parent, meaning like they participate in the same activities and events for kids.
Okay. All right. So it doesn't necessarily have to mean that they have the same beliefs or value systems, or that are creating the exact same environment for the one. Because I mean, sometimes you hear about this, and I think it's beautiful, right? When they say like, we're gonna use love and logic, for instance, with our children at both households and both environments. So the kids are going to be consistently understanding and knowing what what they feel is the way in which they should be raising them, and they communicate like, this is happening with with whichever child, and this is what we're doing, and these are the consequences maybe, and would hope that you'd appreciate that. That's beautiful, right? And that's the ideal way, but that doesn't always happen.
Right. And so people can like hate each other and really disagree, but still co-parent.
Sure.
And there can be toxic co-parenting and, reasonable co-parenting, but co means there's some unification, right? Whereas in parallel parenting, that comes up when parents are so toxic with each other, or one parent, right? I really always say it takes two parents to have a good divorce. Right? Because both parents have to be willing to play nice, to put the kids first, to show up, to communicate in some way. And it only takes one parent to make it a high conflict divorce.
Right. Exactly.
And they can refuse to get kids to activities. They can make the transitions really toxic. And so I think that parallel parenting, I think it's sad when kids have to go into a world of parallel parenting, because it means they're so parallel. They don't cross tracks. And so in a presentation that I heard about parallel parenting, it was really about like, I'm going to sign up the kids for activities on my time, and you as my ex sign up kids for their activities on your time, and they don't cross. Yeah. So the parents, that can protect kids from conflict, because the parents aren't fighting about it. It's just like, you're doing taekwondo on my days and soccer on dad's days or whatever. If it reduces the conflict, that's a gift for kids, because parental conflict is just toxic. It is psychological child abuse. I can go into the ACEs studies about adverse childhood experiences. It's bad for kids.
Yeah. Let's stop real quick, if you don't mind, because we're getting into parallel parenting, and you had one last part of co-parenting. It was ideal and then kind of stiff, and then one more that you were going to share with us of that last way in which co-parenting can kind of manifest.
Oh no, the third. I think the third was parallel parenting.
Oh, okay. So let's then define specifically, so people really understand the difference. So we talked about the ideal way that co-parenting can happen. So then that's not possible. What are then the circumstances around, and you started to get into that, like just bad blood between the parents. What are some of the circumstances that might lead, and if we don't mind, let's talk about it in two contexts. Like one in which both parents understand that maybe parallel parenting is a better way because it's challenging, and then the way that you were starting to describe, which is one parent is just making things a nightmare, and you just have to parallel parent in order to protect the kids.
Well, I think the only reason to go to parallel parenting is if the two parents absolutely cannot protect their children from the conflict of co-parenting.
Okay.
Sometimes it only takes one parent to blow that up. Sometimes it takes two. But I think that my hope for kids would be that their parents would do everything they can to do some form of co-parenting. Right.
But if not possible, the definition then of parallel parenting would be what you started to say, which was they have just basically different lives at different households.
Right. And they have different activities. So what that does is take away the fight from the parents about conflict, about whether it's religious classes or sports or art or whatever. But the kids pay a huge price in parallel parenting, because like, if I want to sign up my kid for a soccer team and we have 50-50 time, it means those kids can only go to half of their practices and half of their games. And what happens when the soccer party is on dad's time? They don't get to go, right? Or if there's a big tournament, the jamboree that's good for socializing and all that, if it's on dad's time and we're doing parallel parenting and dad is not participating, kids lose out. And I think that kids who are raised with parallel parenting I'm not sure how they could really end up being like a superstar athlete or a superstar in any activity, because it's just so limited if they can only do half. I mean, a lot of coaches won't even have kids
Sure.
who can only come to half of stuff. So kids pay a big price for that. But if that's what parents have to do to not get completely gridlocked in debates over what activities, and it can free up the parents to at least put their kids in stuff they value,
Mhm.
it's better than nothing, but it's not better than much else than that.
Right. And well, but it could also work if one of the parents has decided that, well, we're going to parallel parent, but I'm going to do whatever I can to facilitate, you know, drop offs, pickups, anything that might put the best interest. If one of the parents is still putting the best interest of the children, at the forefront, and it might be in some regards capitulating to what the other parent wants as far as what activities they might be putting them in, and then this gets into a whole like setting boundaries and personal thing, like as far as what your relationship may have been before with your ex and what you want it to be now. And it's makes it a difficult challenge, which is already a challenge, right, when you're divorced. But can it work? I mean, it can work, but there might have to be one person gives a little bit more. One parent might end up giving a little bit more, which, again, like I said, depend on a relationship, can be good or bad.
Well, to me, that sort of sounds like strained co-parenting as opposed to parallel parenting.
Okay. So you feel like parallel parenting is all or nothing, right? So even if you're one parent and you've got, let's say, a parent with that's personality disordered, right? And you're not going to be able to, they're not going to cooperate. You're not going to be able to work with them. And you're just making a definitive decision that you're going to do what you're going to do when the kids are with you, and they're going to be then with the ex, and that's it. So you don't feel like there's any middle ground, that there's any way that the parallel parenting can, like, let's say if two parents just know that they can't communicate well together, they can't coordinate, that they can kind of work together, but they don't agree on environments. You think that there's not like a middle ground of that parallel parenting?
Well, I would categorize that on the more strained side of co-parenting.
Okay.
But at least they're coming together around kids' activities, and there's support for that, with like parent coordinators and decision makers and the platforms like Family Wizard and Talking Parents and all of that kind of stuff. Right. I think of parallel and in that, like, you can be a co-parent, you can co-parent and have different parenting philosophies, different bedtimes, different schedules, different foods you feed your kids, but you can still converge on activities for the kids. And so that to me would still be co-parenting, because there's some agreement. Maybe both of them are contributing financially. But parallel parenting is like where our paths are not converging. I'm doing my thing. I'll pay for it. I'll sign them up. I'll get them there. I'll pick them up. And when they're on your parenting time, it is not an option for them to do my activities. There's just like, it's like railroad tracks.
That's it. Right. So then what are some strategies around co-parenting that you can, because what I hear a lot in meetings and when I get feedback is that there is the one parent that is incredibly challenging to deal with. What are some strategies around trying to keep that to effective co-parenting before you have to make that decision? Because I know from my personal experience too, it's like, it's gotten to the point where I mostly had to make that decision of it's going to be parallel parenting. And this is really unfortunate. What are some strategies around what you can do, how you can mitigate that potentially before you have to get to that? Because it's sad.
Yeah, it is sad. Kids pay the price. Parallel parenting may be a little easier for parents because they can basically say, to heck with you, my ex, I'm going to do my thing.
Yeah.
But they bifurcate the kids' lives so much that the kids lose. I think some of the things that parents can do to hang in there a little longer with co-parenting. One is definitely about setting up some boundaries about, like, I've done a lot of work with parents, mostly moms, about how to not react to heated emails.
Mhm.
Right. And so, things like saying, I will be checking my email, like to have emails go to a special box so that they
Yeah.
don't just pop up, so that they can get themselves in a frame of mind, like they have their armor on before they read the emails. They don't respond immediately. They maybe have somebody scan their emails so that they take ownership for not keeping the old dynamics that weren't working in the marriage from leaching into the divorce, like keeping it very factual, making polite requests, answering polite requests, not taking jabs, not putting emotional stuff in. I'm sort of a believer in, what do you call it? A presumptive close. Like, I'll plan on this unless you let me know by 2:00 on Thursday that doesn't suit.
Okay.
So that they don't have to stay stressed. Like, well, are they going to answer? Are they going to answer? What's the answer going to be? Are you going to, like the poking, the pecking that can keep going.
Right.
I think that can help make it go better. I know that sometimes people really struggle with keeping co-parenting going because, like, the other parent won't pay, or they won't get the gift to take to the birthday party, or they won't pitch in for a celebration. And I think that what comes first is the kids' well-being, and that the kids are oblivious to the conflict. So sometimes that might mean a parent pays more than what's fair, right? It might make their skin crawl. But if it allows the kids to have their life smoothly, or to keep their social connections, to be able to participate in activities, that's, a lump that a co-parent might have to swallow sometimes.
Yeah. So those are a lot of great recommendations all at once. And I wanted to talk about at least a couple of them. And so the first ones you talked about was like just knowing that there's going to be stuff residual from your marriage that is going to trigger you, right? The emails or whatever behavior that's was the unhealthy dynamic that led you to no longer being able to spend your life with this person. So
Right.
finding ways in which you, whether that's having somebody else scan your emails, scheduling, and this is the one I firmly believe in, so that I can pray and meditate before I read the email, scheduling a time, to get yourself into a space that you can read them, and then and not even just read them, right? I think for me, I just need to read it, and then I just need to put it away. And then I need to schedule another time 24 hours later, maybe, to then respond to it. Because then I don't want to, have the emotional trigger come up, have the feelings come out, and then go down what you just said, which is like all the stuff that can go wrong with communicating poorly and ineffectively after that. So like, that's a big one. Know yourself, understand the dynamic, and try to figure that out, because that's going to help in this process.
Well, and know yourself and do your work.
Yeah.
Right. So like what you just talked about is doing your work of saying, okay, I'm going to get myself zen before I read the email, and then I'm going to pause. Right. That takes work. That takes restraint. And I would say in between those two things, to do some emotional work.
Yeah.
Like to be able to rage and be sad and be scared and feel guilt or regret, and take out the emotional trash that comes up before responding to an email, or before seeing your ex at a transition or something, so that you can discharge all that emotion and show up in like a calm adult brain, instead of like the activated, triggered, trauma brain or kid brain that we can show up at in.
Don't take all of that baggage and put it into your co-parenting, right? Like, clearly define what it is you need to be doing, as yourself and what you need to be doing as a co-parent. Like define those things and take the time to cultivate how what they've impact each other, but how you take care of yourself and the work you do is going to impact how you're going to co-parent effectively, so that you're not shooting back a text, or you're not screaming and yelling at transitions, or you're not doing anything that is detrimental and negatively impacting that co-parenting relationship, or more importantly, the children.
Yeah. And one thing I notice is that I work with like really skilled, competent, professional people that know how to do business communications, and they know how to work with difficult clients or difficult bosses and, stay composed and use skills. But then when it comes to their ex, all that goes out the window. And if they can just, it's so much fun in a session sometimes to help them realize, like, oh, I deal with difficult people all the time. Yeah. And then I'm like, how do you just transfer that skill set to your ex, with whom you are no longer intimate partners, emotional partners, social partners, spiritual partners? It's a business agreement. Co-parenting, like a stiffer co-parenting, is like a civil business agreement. And how you feel doesn't matter. It's just about what time, how much schedule. It's just the details, the logistics. Right.
So if you're doing that well, and if you're doing that effectively, that's not a guarantee that it'll happen, because you can only stay in your lane, right? You can only take care of your business, and then you leave it up to the other person to do their thing. And so that might not always work. And so what then if you're getting to the point where you really feel this is just, it's not going to happen for whatever reason, how do you talk with, or how do you like make that transition, or talk with your kids about something like that, like going to parallel parenting, and like, because that's a hard, and obviously this is going to be age dependent, right? But how do you have some of these general conversations with them about what's happening and what choice you might be making in how you're creating the environment you are?
Well, I think it's important to name reality without trash talking the other parent. Mm-hmm. But we have to be realists as well. So it might be something like, I speak from the mom's perspective, like dad and I have different opinions about this activity. And so I'd like to talk to you, say this is a kid old enough to be helping make a decision. I'm mm-hmm. thinking about letting you do this activity, and I can only get you to the parts when I have you for parenting time. Mm-hmm. And I'll make sure you have your stuff. And it means that sometimes you will have to miss, but I'm going to do what I can to get you to as much as I can. So it's naming that dad has a different opinion, or dad is choosing not to opt in, or dad prefers not to pay for this activity. And so we're going to do it this way, right? So we're naming it without name calling, and we can name the limitations, and we're going to have to be supportive of our kids, because if they miss the final presentation or program or the party or whatever, we have to be able to empathize with them and comfort them, because this is going to be hard for them.
Yeah.
Well, so it takes a lot of grown-up skills to show up, because the parent may be raging as well.
Well, it takes a huge amount of parenting skills, because what's not evident to them, which is okay, is that there's a whole dynamic behind it, which might be, needing to state your needs, set boundaries with that person that you may have not been able to do, which is why you're not with them anymore. And you're needing to do this in the context of the relationship, the co-parenting relationship with your children, and which we can't get into and talk with them about, because they can't understand and grasp it, because they're children. And so doing this, but what I really liked about what you said is that it's okay. And I like how you say name it, but name what is happening, right? Talk about it in a factual, and you mentioned this too, in a factual manner. There's a disagreement on paying for it, or disagreement on the scheduling of it's a disagreement, right? That's not saying anybody's good, anybody's bad, anybody's lazy, anybody, doesn't put any emotion into it. It's just talking factually with them about the situation and what you can do and what you can't do.
Exactly. And, we can deal with that like we might if we can't afford it, or if the weather ruins something, or the pandemic ruins something, right? We don't even have to name that it's a conflict.
Mm-hmm.
We can just be like, I would like to see you do this activity, and dad prefers not to participate in that. And so here's how we'll go in it instead, so that they don't have to hear, oh, it's another fight, there's a right and a wrong. It's more about, here's what I'm willing and able to do, provide, and allow, period. Whether it's because of a storm or a pandemic or finances or my work schedule, like put that content, put this conversation in that same sort of context. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes absolute sense. And that actually provides them a framework and modeling of doing that in a proper way, right? Like communicating to them and stating that these are the circumstances, these are what the needs are, this is what we can do, what we can't do, and this is why it can't happen or can't happen. It's actually an opportunity that we otherwise might not have to model for them an effective way to communicate.
Yeah, and kids who are having parents who are at that point have probably been exposed to more conflict than is good for them already. Right. And so they're probably allergic to any more conversation about the disagreement. That's why I'm like, business communication in this kind of case.
Right.
It pains kids when they know that their parents are fighting.
Well, and as much as we want to try to relieve them of that and communicate in a business like manner, they're still going to pick up on some of that energy and that feeling too. And so there will definitely still be some exposure. So like, you're probably phenomenal at this. I am not great, but try very hard at this. So anybody listening, thinking like, oh man, like I'm just failing at this. It is a huge task. There's so much, like you said, there's so much that goes into all of this, not just co-parenting, not just deciding to parallel parent, but knowing yourself, knowing the triggers, figuring out how to communicate on an effective level that's not in creating emotion, setting up, learning the skills, right? Then just learning the skills is one thing, implementing the skills and getting good at them is 100%. The next thing, right? So there's so much that goes into this. So anybody listening is like, oh man, like this sounds impossible. It's a lot, and it's okay, and it's okay that it's a lot, and it's okay if you don't figure out if it's co-parenting or parallel parenting or how you do it, or if you have to go back, or if you have to go back and do it a better way with your kids another time. It's okay.
Yeah, it's hard and it's messy, and I think it's okay to say to kids, like say in that scenario, it would be okay for me to say like if the kids are disappointed or upset, I might say like, I have feelings about that too. And I'm doing my work, so you don't need to be the one for me to share all my feelings with, but I just want to let you know, I have feelings too. And it's okay that you have feelings about this and you can share them with me.
Yeah.
But if they share them with why you're sad, yeah, I hear that you're sad, and not go into, yeah, that makes me mad too, or I'm really sad about that too. But just to be more like, yeah, I have feelings about that. This is hard.
Well, let's talk about that and maybe give a practical tip around that, because oftentimes what can happen is that the one parent will do something in an attempt to kind of set the other parent up for a difficult conversation for this, like put them into an activity that they know that they really want, but the other parent just has absolutely no abilities, let's say, to get them to, right? Because maybe they work a different schedule, or they can't afford to help participate in this, and the kid's upset, obviously, right? This is something that they really want to do. The one parent's like, yeah, this is great, you can do it, I'm going to sign you up for it, and then totally is setting the other parent up for what might seem as failure. It's not failure in the long run, but trying to do something that's going to diminish potentially the other parent. What is let's talk about specific how you can share that with a kiddo that's just going to be disappointed and might even like take it out on you and think, well, you don't care about me, or whatever scenario that, depending on the age, that they might come up with in their minds, which is legitimate because they have their feelings around it. Like, what do we say? How can we say that?
Like if we're being set up by the other parent.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think a thing to say can be, like, mom and I have an agreement that we will share decisions about activities, and this is an activity that I'm not able to participate in. And so I understand that now you've gotten your hopes up and that you're really sad that I can't do that. And it's sad, it's hard. And if I could redo it, mom would call me and we would talk about it first.
Yeah.
Right. Because sometimes we do get blindsided. The kids come, they're like, oh, it can happen 100 times over where we get blindsided. And I think it's fair to just say, well, that would be a conversation for mom and I to have together and see if we can agree on it. And we haven't had that conversation yet.
And it's okay to say we have an agreement. It's okay to say we haven't discussed this, and we need to discuss this. I hope that we can figure it out. Or if it's already done, then say, I'm sorry. Like, I understand, I empathize with your feelings, but that's just not something, and it wasn't discussed, and so I'm sorry. And it's okay, like, to point specifically, right, to what is happening, right? Again, not in an emotional way, but this is it. We have an agreement. We're supposed to have, both of us talk about this. That didn't happen. Now this is the scenario we're in, and this is how it's going to have to go forward, which is you can participate on your, mom or dad's time. But when you're with me, unfortunately, I can't because I work, or we don't have the money, or whatever it might be. It's okay to say the specifics.
Yes. And so here's like a quick tip or a cheat sheet. And that is, if your kid throws something at you that you didn't see coming, that's awkward, right? Where we might kind of stumble through those things, is to pause and have the first response be to see our kids and to name their experience.
Okay.
All of our reasons, all of the agreement, blah, 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 right? Like, maybe there's a place for that later. But first, our kid has just been put in this uncomfortable position of saying something, catching us off guard. We've been set up or whatever. We need to put our response to the side and think about like, oh, sweet pea, I can tell this is a really uncomfortable conversation for you. Yeah. I can see from your face that you are disappointed, or I can tell you're mad right now, right? To just see them, to connect with them, connect before correct. And the correct is like data or information. Go for connection first. See them, feel them, name it, validate it so they feel seen and heard and known. That matters first before everything else. And then if you get caught off guard, to be able to do that and then be like, I didn't see this conversation coming, so I need to think about it before I respond.
That's good too.
Instead of defending ourselves or protecting ourselves, which of course we want to do because we can be totally triggered because we've been set up.
Yep.
To just say, I want to think about how I respond. So give me an hour, give me a day, or whatever. We'll come back. We'll talk about it. But I'm not ready yet. I don't want words to squirt out of my mouth that I'm going to regret.
Right. That's awesome. Connect before you correct, which, man, that's It's hard to do. Have teens, right? You've had teens. Sometimes connecting right away
is
is
hard.
like,
And we can feel attacked or defensive or kind of like,
yeah,
are you kidding? My
yeah,
ex did that. Like we can have all these emotions, but first we just need to focus on the kids.
right.
And
Your
it's
mom did
hard. It's hard
what?
it's hard to dial in our own agitated, outraged adolescent selves. Yeah, there's nothing like a teenager. I have found, pardon my language, but I have found there's nothing like a sassy teenager to bring out the 15-year-old bitchy girl that's
Oh
like
yeah.
half an inch under the surface. And that I have a really recent TikTok and Instagram reel where I'm like, what I wish I would have known about parenting teens. And it was how quickly I could turn into a bratty teenager.
Oh yeah.
And then what to do instead. And it's to slow it down.
Yeah. Well, that's a great point, that your second part of that, which was it's okay to put off conversations like, I need to think about this, or I need some time, or I need to figure it out, or I need to just talk with your mom, dad about this to get more information. And that information might be from them. It might be from God. It might be from wherever you need to get more information to have a better conversation, not just a healthier conversation with them around that, because you're absolutely right. Like I figured that out real quick when I started having teens. It's like I had the realization one day, like, oh my God, I'm acting worse than my teens, because I'm acting like a teen boy. And I'm the adult. I need to stop. This is ridiculous. So
someone's got to be the adult, and
yeah.
you're the only one that doesn't have teen at the end of your age. So it's you. It's like this huge shock, isn't it?
Man, yeah, it's yeah, they'll do that to you, right? The kids will.
Oh my goodness, will they ever? And
unbelievable.
One of the things that's important in that. Wait, hold on. Oh, I just lost my thought. You were talking about, I was thinking about how, darn it, I lost in that little interaction. I lost my train of thought.
Well, that's okay. Because
no, I do. Can I say it?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, please.
It was in that process of saying, like, wow, I have some feelings about this. I need a minute before I talk about it. We're teaching our kids all like adults relationship skills, right? Because show me a relationship where it always works to just let words squirt out of our mouths when we're charged or triggered.
Right.
It doesn't work in work. It doesn't work in intimate partnerships. It doesn't work in friendships, right? It's a skill. It's way more work to restrain ourselves from having words squirt out. Squirting words out is easy. It's just letting the lava flow out of the volcano. And so we're not just teaching kids, we're not just protecting them for parental conflict in a divorce. We're teaching them this is a life skill. When you're upset, it's okay to slow it down, take a pause, and then come back when you can show up in your grown-up self. It's a life skill, not just a divorced parent skill.
Yeah, again, we're modeling something for them that has a greater impact than we could have ever imagined, and probably may not even have had that. I like to reframe it, because so often we feel upset that we have to have these conversations and that the kids are put in the middle of it. However, if you reframe it to that, there may have not been another circumstance if you stayed married or they grew up in a different environment, that you could have modeled this skill for them that they pick up and then are able to utilize in their adult life, in their future, because they're going to have to, and they're going to have to learn it at some point, right? And so it is a good opportunity. And I know that's, for those listening, that's easier for people like you and I who have maybe a little bit older kids and have kind of been down the co-parenting, parallel parenting road a little bit further. But I do promise you, if you're listening, that it is an opportunity. If you can reframe that in your mind, that, okay, this is hard, this is difficult, I don't like it, it's uncomfortable, and might screw it up many, many times, like I have, but it might be something that is the most amazing thing that is going to happen for your kid in the future and in their adult life.
Right. Even though we wouldn't choose this pain for our children to go through a divorce, if we use skills, we can end up teaching them really valuable life lessons that they'll be glad to have, that will serve them for a long time.
Right.
Good can come out of it, indeed.
Good, definitely can. And Kerry, I want to thank you. There's so many good tips that you shared. Particularly those last two ones are really, really good. And we got to dive real deep in this co-parenting, parallel parenting thing, which is exactly what I wanted to do. And so those listening, how can they connect with you? I've mentioned your Love and Logic classes. I know that you've got a practice yourself as well, but now you've started to do a lot. I get your newsletter, right? So I know all this stuff. So you got some online stuff. And so anybody listening across the world can connect with you. How can they do that?
I think one of the ways the easiest way to connect with me is to go to kerrystutzman.com and join my email list, because that's where I share what's going on. And I have a presentation coming up in September that I'm doing with my son, who was a teenager of divorce, who hated me for a while. And now we have this solid, strong relationship, and we're doing a talk for parents and teenagers. And so I think that could be interesting for parents. I do a lot of social media stuff about like parenting, and kind of more specifically lately about parenting teenagers, because I'm in it and it's fresh. And I have my website, I have some online offerings and some public speaking. I'm not doing the in-person parenting classes that I used to. And I have a son who is following in my footsteps, and he's doing success coaching with teenage boys. Great. And so, like in a parenting plan, sometimes you can't get your kid into therapy if the other person doesn't agree, but coaching is sort of an undefined place. And so he's on my website. My practice is pretty full right now. I also have a couple therapists who work for me. So if someone's looking for help with parenting or co-parenting, there are some options listed on my website.
Awesome.
So kerrystutzman.com, KerryStutzman, or social media are the best places to find me.
Okay. Facebook, Instagram,
TikTok.
Oh, you're TikToker. Okay. I'm impressed.
You gotta be. You follow where the teenagers go and see what's coming. And so
right. And maybe your son it would be good to chat with him maybe about some of this too. This would be fun with some of the dads who are connecting with their teen sons or going through this as well. So you got a lot of great stuff, and I want to just tell you how much I sincerely appreciate the work that you do, particularly what you're doing now and focusing on the teens too, and because that's close to my heart, because I got teens now too. And when you say that's fresh, I think the first thing that came to mind was like, it's a fresh wound, right? It's like a fresh, teenagers are like a fresh wound all the time. They're like going to hit all of your stuff. But anyway, I sincerely appreciate all the work you do. And if anybody found value today, please connect with Kerry on all of her social media, go to the website. Also, like what we're doing, share it with other divorced dads, share it on your social media, leave a comment on whatever podcast platform you're listening to, leave a star review, do something to spread this to the rest of the divorced or divorcing dads out there, because the more that we can share these messages, help with stuff like co-parenting or parallel parenting, or go even deeper with these emotions and being more effective. Like you said, it's because this is good for their kids and is the foundation of close, connected families. So that is our goal here. So Kerry Stutzman, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you.